I'm a veteran. I'm 32. I know what to do. So I'm very and really focused on my job December 6th. And after that, after I take care of business on December 6th, I'm going to aim on 2015.
Is Jean Pascal a pretender or a contender at 175? This week, courtesy of EliteSportsTours.com, we're talking JP and his upcoming fight this Saturday. You don't want to miss it. If you're expecting a Mickey Rourke type fight, that's not going to happen. It's going to be a beauty. We welcome back Pierre Bernier to the show, Pierre Evans Just, and David Hurley. Gentlemen, welcome back. All right, huge matchup on Saturday. Huge implications for Jean Pascal specifically. Pretender or contender at 175?
I think Jean Pascal is definitely a contender. I mean, how could you not be? Two great fights with a living legend, Bernard Hopkins. Beat Chad Dawson. Definitely a contender.
He's done it before.
But people have criticized his bravado. People have criticized in the sense of his mental game and have a little bit too much swag, if you want to call it that way, if I'm trying to be politically correct. But do you think that now, I know you covered him in media day, and he seems to be a little bit changed from a mental standpoint?
Oh, he's been in the game for a while. He's been champion before, like you mentioned. He's fought Chad Dawson before. He's always had the confidence,
exciting.
but you can tell by seeing him that the confidence now leads to he's more mature. He mentioned that he has his daughter. He's a father. You can tell that his attitude's changed a little bit. And on top of it, he has a good corner. He has Rogers in his corner now. So he's more down to earth, but he always keeps the same level of confidence. So that's important.
I want you gentlemen to listen to what Jean Pascal had to say when Pierre asked him about his legacy. Have a listen.
I'm not fighting for money because boxing is my passion. I love the sport. I love to be a boxer, but right now, because I made money, I'm boxing for my legacy. I want to leave my mark on this earth when I leave the planet. I'm fighting for legacy. I'm fighting for history. That's why I'm always trying to face the best, like Kovalev, Stevenson, Bernard Hopkins, Chad Dawson, Jacques Conou. At my level, it's all about the legacy. It's all about the history.
He seems more confident. He seems more down to earth. There's no doubt there's been a change. It was a great question, by the way. What do you think about Jean Pascal? Pretender or contender?
I think Jean Pascal's a pretender, and it hurts me to say that because Jean Pascal is a Quebec fighter, and I always like to see them do very well. I mean, he beat Lucien Boutte, which was a decision. He did. Boutte looked a little slow in that fight. But his wins, I mean, his win against, his win against Dawson was a headbutt that really kind of gave him the edge. Yeah. Against Bernard Hopkins,
winning the fight.
He was winning the fight.
He was winning the fight, but the headbutt really gave him the edge that pushed him over the top. And then Hopkins, he didn't really look that dominant. The draw, he didn't win most of the rounds that he thought he had won. I thought actually Bernard Hopkins had won that fight. So Bernard Hopkins should have won both those fights. I have a hard time seeing him do well, and if he has to win this fight and go against Kovalev,
guys, but remember the Froch fight? He went down there to fight Froch and put up
he
a
gained
tremendous
more from
fight
losing than
with
actually
little
winning.
experience.
He did win.
As a young fighter. I think all.
And you can see what happened to Boutte when he actually made the same trip. I think he's definitely a contender. He's won the title before. He's a #1 contender for both belts, for Stevenson and for Kovalev. And that's saying something. That means that he's actually recognized as a threat. And that's not nothing. And he knows that. And his opponents know that as well. You can tell that that Kovalev might be interesting in fighting him. Stevenson, on the other hand, we've heard the back and forth on social media lately.
He's going to fight. I think Kovalev's going to have more of a chance of fighting him. I think Kovalev wants this fight because I think Kovalev's going to knock him out, unfortunately.
And I think it's a style issue, too. I think Jean Pascal is a contender, but with some reservations because it's very often a style issue when it comes to boxing.
Never clear cut.
You look at the trifecta of Chad Dawson, Jean Pascal, and Bernard Hopkins. Some of them win, some of them lose, depending on who you're facing.
Though, at the end of the day,
fought Adrian Diaconou with one arm.
At
one point.
Styles make fights, and I believe that Jean Pascal right now, he's in the driver's seat. Because both fights, let's say he fights Stevenson or he fights Kovalev, the biggest fights are made through him. And he's aware of that, and you can tell.
But yet the public wants to see it.
At the media, he even mentioned that as well. The biggest fights are going through him because at the moment.
But that's funny though. But that's interesting because, sure, he's a huge draw.
Yeah.
But when you poll the public,
right,
the public doesn't want to see.
If you poll the U.S. public, obviously,
no, but
he's
if
not.
You're saying he's a huge draw. He wasn't even the main card on this fight. Boutte was supposed to be the main card. So he's not that big of a draw if you think about it.
It's a bigger draw than Stevenson.
Well, Stevenson's the champion, and I think if Stevenson fights him, Stevenson might even knock him out too.
But
Stevenson's got some punching
power
that he doesn't have.
Is it a matter of the fight? Are we talking about him being a draw or him the fight
I could
itself?
put in my 2 cents.
Absolutely.
One thing we're not looking at is Jean Pascal has a terrific chin. I mean, he took a lot of punches.
You're right. Absolutely right.
Punches from everybody. The afternoon, I mean, what makes you think, what makes us all think that Adonis Stevenson could knock him out?
Because Adonis Stevenson hasn't taken as many punches in his career. He's still a little bit younger in his fight game, although by age he's older.
Yeah, but
he still has a little bit more
and lost to. I mean, he did lose. He did get knocked out by Donald Boone, which is not nothing. It's definitely a stain on his record, and you know he's champion now. It's significant.
I like what I heard from Jean Pascal when he was asked a question by one of the reporters about Adonis Stevenson, and he's like, I'm not thinking that far ahead. I'm focused on this fight. And I think that's a wise thing. And I think a couple of years back, you wouldn't have heard that from Jean Pascal.
That shows
maturity. How exciting, though, changing gears is it for Quebec boxing? You look at Interbox, you look at Groupe Yvon Michel, Jim. Well, it's a great time to be a boxing fan in Canada, in Quebec specifically.
And let's look at this undercard on this particular night on December 6th. They've got a great undercard. They've got Eye of the Tiger Management Fighters, one of the youngest Canadian amateur champions on the card, Stephen Butler, Schiller Hippolyte, WBC Continental of America's champion. I mean, it's a great card. On the same night, David Lemieux is fighting
exactly.
Barclays Center, New York City. And the fight will be shown live.
Quebec boxing is becoming one of the most prolific fighting cards. I mean, we're growing fighters.
Saint-Just is holding a professional card on December 19th in Repentigny on the same night as a World Championship card pro in Quebec City. We've never seen this in Quebec, never.
But I think
two on the same night.
I think it's very important. If they've learned any lessons from the Boutte and Pascal fight, that should have been made years ago. And when it was made, it was very profitable. It made a lot of money. It was a big marquee fight, but it was not the fight that it could have been when both of these guys were. They were champions and they were at the top.
That's a long-going argument.
Now you have, and if you take a look at what's going on with Mayweather and Pacquiao, I hope that Interbox and Groupe Yvon Michel have learned from these mistakes and they try to
give the fans what they want.
They give the fight. We understand that Kovalev and Stevenson's a big fight, but in terms of the drawing power that they can have in Quebec, two local guys, they have to make that fight.
Before we go, it's a great point. Great to welcome you to the show. Thanks for stepping up on short notice. Great. Hopefully we'll have you back. I know you've got a lot going on. Where can people catch you? In the ring and doing your thing.
Well, you could check out my website, pierrebernier.net, and always on Facebook. I look forward to talking with fight fans, MMA fans, boxing fans. Facebook, you could find me under my name, and I'd love to hear from the fans out there.
The face-off segment is up next. Can we get you through a little boxing match, a little boxing call for us?
Ladies and gentlemen, after the break, we will be right back with the face-off segment.